Hi everyone, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Liora.
Hi, my name is Carlijn.
And we are going to be taking you through this webinar.
Yes, in this webinar, it's about the health cluster. We have more than 60 funding directions, and we're going to focus on several opportunities to give you an overview of what grants are out there for health and biotech companies.
Yeah, so by no means is this like a limited list. This is just, a select few. As we said, there's over 60 different funding opportunities, and we just tried to kind of pick a whole bunch of different opportunities from different sources or about different topics, just so you get a real flavor. So between the two of us, Carlijn and myself have a background in international law, genetics, life sciences in general. So we really have a very good understanding of the field. So we'll be able to help you and kind of guide you through the complexities of non-dilutive funding for biotech, health tech companies.
Yes, let's get started. I'm sorry. Before we get to the grants, I would like to mention that while targeting non-dilutive funding, there are some notions and definitions to be presented. First, regarding the thematic of the call, when a call is top-down and bottom-up, is how we call it. A call is bottom-up when the call is open to all fields of technology, and top-down when a specific call is aligned with specific thematics, and in this case, the field of health, also digital health. Then we can divide it in funding mechanisms. We have calls on national level, intergovernmental level, based on bilateral agreements, and European level. And second, we consider the type of the application setting. If a submission is as a single applicant or in a consortium, which can be a small consortium or a large consortium.
So as Carlijn was talking about, we have bottom-up funding opportunities, which are funding opportunities looking for really any type of innovation. It's a very, very broad scope. So any really company, well, most companies can fall into these categories. So we've identified four that in our experience are kind of most they're the calls that most clients like to go for. They're very, very good terms. They're very interesting. So we have the EIC, which is we'll get into detail again, the EIB, Eureka, and Spring D. So we're going to spend time just going through each one of these in slightly more detail.
Yeah, starting with the EIC, stands for European Innovation Council. And here we have two main calls, the Accelerator and the Pathfinder. The Accelerator is an independent application on EU level, and it has a grant of 2.5 million euros and the option of 15 million equity. The Accelerator supports the later stages of technology development as well as scale up. And the technology component of an applicant's innovation, therefore, has already been tested and validated in a laboratory or other relevant environment prior to the EIC Accelerator application. Projects to be selected should provide a strong commercialization strategy that aims at creating new markets or disrupt existing markets. An example of an EIC Accelerator challenge under the upcoming work program that just started, 2024, is the monoclonal antibody-based therapeutics for emerging viruses. We're happy to tell you more about it in a meeting, obviously. Then about the Pathfinder. For the Pathfinder Open, we would need to apply with a small consortium, at least 3 independent legal entities, and each should be established in a different country, at least one of them in an EU member state. For the challenges of the Pathfinder, a submission by a single applicant is allowed, or 2 applicants together. The funding per project is up to 3 million euros for the open Pathfinder and up to 4 million for the challenge. The Pathfinder targets a more convincing long-term vision of relatively new deep tech that has the potential to have a transformative positive effect to the economy and society, which is a big difference with the accelerator, which is more market-oriented.
So now a little bit more about the EIB, which is the European Investment Bank, Innovative Bank. So contrary to the other calls that we are going to be presenting to you, this isn't a non-dilutive fund. This is a bank loan. However, there are very, very favorable terms. So this is really, you would apply to the EIB if you have a very, very large project that maybe investors or other, you wouldn't be able to kind of get a good loan because it is very, very risky. So you can ask a request for a loan of up to 75 million euro. It's a single application. So you would be applying as your company on its own, saying, this is, our company, you pitch the company, you pitch the project, and then you go through this assessment to see if it is something that they would want to be investing in. This is open year round, and the repayment is required to take around 5 years. Now, there are very, very limited terms and conditions available about this call, this grant, because it's really dependent on each applicant. So if this is something that does interest you, we would investigate it further and find out the specific conditions and requirements for your specific application.
Then we go to Eureka. Eureka is a direction for intergovernmental funding, which is based on bilateral agreements between countries. Eureka offers regular calls for projects to bridge the gaps between industry leaders and SMEs. And generally, for bilateral R&D collaboration, in some cases, you can also add a research institution to join the consortium. In that way, we will accelerate the transfer of their research results into pre-commercial projects. And the Eureka calls, they have recurring deadlines, mostly twice a year. An example is the Eurostars for bottom-up calls, open for all technologies, for bilateral collaborations between a long list of participating countries. Other examples are specific bilateral calls, such as Germany, Israel, UK, Portugal, and so on. And another example is ETF4, allocated for software innovation, which can be relevant to digital health projects. You will see later on as well. The health thematic has many similarities with Cluster 4 for digital health solutions. And finally, also, there are feasibility studies calls for higher TRLs, which is called the InnoWide. So these are just some examples for calls under the mother program of Eureka.
So now moving on to Spring D, which is the last of our bottom-up calls that we'll be presenting today. So Spring D is actually the German national funding body. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the field of non-dilutive funding in general. Now, in terms of national funding, normally, as within the name, national funding is only open to that specific nationality of the applicant. However, Spring D is open for international applications. They claim to have an unlimited funding budget, but in our experience in looking at the projects that have actually been funded, a max budget of about 25 million euro for a request is advisable. The really important thing about Spring D, what they're looking for in an application, is something completely innovative and groundbreaking. They're looking to either disrupt a current market or to create a whole new market themselves. So they're looking for really radical technology, something that's going to make them say, wow, something that they haven't seen before. So this application is open year round. And it's really, even though it's open for international applicants, we really have to think about it as a German national fund, and we have to kind of think how we could best make the application most attractive to the German call. So whether that's partnering with a German company or building a really interesting project that would specifically help German industry. But a very important thing is, upon a successful application with Spring D, upon winning the grant, you are in fact required to open an entity in Germany. So this may be something very interesting anyway, if that is part of your R&D development pipeline of your company, this could fit in very, very nicely.
After we spoke about the bottom-up opportunities open for all technologies, now we're going to zoom in to the top-down and more health-specific. Here are 4 examples that we were going to speak about. The SEPI, first of all, it stands for Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, and it focuses on the development of vaccines against epidemic threats. The EPPARIT stands for European Partnership in Personalized Medicine for personalized medicine approaches. EPAMR stands for Joint Programming Initiative on Antimicrobial Resistance. All research on antimicrobial resistance with focus areas both in therapeutics and also diagnostics. And lastly, the large consortia participation, which is Horizon Europe and Innovative Health Initiative, which we will explain in various fields in health. And it has several deadlines here. We will get to that in a moment. First, let's start with the SEPI.
Okay, so as Carlijn was saying, SEPI stands for the Coalition of Epidemic Preparedness Innovations. This is a really, really unique fund that their goal, and they were established that on the occurrence of a new global threat, a pandemic or an epidemic, they want to be able to have all of the capabilities to develop a vaccine and to develop some sort of treatment and therapy within 100 days. So this is their 100-day mission. So they publish lots of different calls across the year. They have recently were talking about a call looking for technologies that help the rapid development of vaccines. So anyone who has any type of technology that helps in the actual production and manufacturing of vaccines. They also have a very, very interesting list of pathogens that are threats, or they think will be threats, or just common pathogens in general, that they are looking for treatments or vaccines or something directly specifically for that. Now, a very interesting thing about SEPI is that despite having specific calls that they do publish online, they really enjoy working with the applicant themselves. So if you have something in the field of something about pandemic, epidemic preparedness, vaccine, virology, all things like that, you approach SEPI, you kind of give them a pitch, you say, this is our company, this is what we're doing. You send them a pitch deck. And upon, their review and asking a few questions, you may be invited to present. And if they are really interested in investing and kind of funding your innovation and your technology, they on occasion will open a specific call that will be fitting for you. So this is something that's very interesting, that yes, they do have specific call requirements that they publish. If you are working with something really interesting in that field, we can still approach them and see, because as I said, they're really, really goal orientated. They just want to be the place for pandemic preparedness and viruses in general. So if you have anything to contribute in that field, this is something we would approach.
Then the EPPARIT, the European Partnership for Personalized Medicine. This is a platform for joint programming of national and European research and innovation supporting activities. The EPPARIT actually brings together academic, clinical, public health, and private research teams. And this year's call will aim to fund research that fosters the identification or a validation of targets for personalized medicine approaches. And this includes personalized approaches through companion biomarkers that can support individualizing a treatment approach and selecting and monitoring the most effective therapy. The budget for the call is 45 million euros, which is the total budget of the call, but the actual budget per project depends per national funding authority, as it's an intergovernmental funding scheme. So we have all national funding authorities involved. And also regarding eligibility, it depends per funding authority if SME is eligible. We are in direct contact with those authorities, so we're able to cover all your eligibility questions and funding questions. The EPPARIT publishes yearly calls and usually 2 stages. The first one is for March, and the second full proposal is for June 20. Yeah.
So similar to EPPARIT, JPIAMR also publish annual thematics, and that's what the calls are under that one thematic. So JPIAMR is the Joint Program for Innovation on Antimicrobial Resistance. So this year they are focusing very much on antifungal and antibacterial resistance. So there are currently 2 calls that are ready for this year. And again, the scope is really, really wide, even though it is under the very specific topic of antifungal, antimicrobial resistance. But they're talking about interventions to prevent and mitigate infection. So we have, pre-infection. We also have about the treatment of fungal infections. We talk about resistance. So there really is huge, huge scope in this type of project. So it is an intergovernmental funding, which means there are, I think, 19 different countries that have kind of bought into this scheme, and they are funded from 21 different bodies, meaning often one country will be funded by more. They will have more than one body that they are funded by. And the very interesting thing here is that you are required to build a consortia. So that means the consortia needs to consist of 3 to 6 partners from at least 3 different countries. So again, you can see this idea of collaborative science and sharing and international collaboration. This is very, very important for them. And sorry about that. And within what we would do with working with us is the actual call for proposal is very vague. Meaning, there's lots of scope and there's very wide scope because they want to really hear and have an opportunity to catch all of the very interesting, diverse projects and then be able to pick from that.
Then we leave the intergovernmental funding. We go to the large consortia participation. First of all, Horizon Europe. Here there are just 3 examples of large consortia calls in the Cluster 1 Health of Horizon Europe. And these calls are due in April. And each of this example falls under a specific destination, it's called. It's like a focus area. The first one is about pandemic preparedness and response, and it falls under the destination of disease, focus area of tackling diseases and reducing disease burden. The second one for bioprinting of living cells for regenerative medicine falls under the destination of unlocking the full potential of new tools, technologies, and digital solutions for a healthy society. So this is like the bigger idea behind such calls. The third one is for medical devices and in vitro diagnostic medical devices and falls under Destination 6, which is focusing on maintaining an innovative, sustainable, and globally competitive health industry. As you see, all such calls have large budgets involved, and this is for to be shared with all participants. It can be a consortium of 10, 15 partners, depends on the project.
So still sticking with large consortia, we're going to speak a little bit about the IHI, the Innovative Health Initiative. So it's very similar to the Horizon Europe consortia, but IHI is just a slightly different body, and they biannually release different calls. So they have calls that are either a single stage or a 2-stage call. So for instance, one of the calls is supporting healthcare system resilience through a focus of persistency in the treatment of chronic diseases. So something like that, as similar to what we've been saying, is that it is a very general open call because they really, this is an area that they are very interested in and think that we would benefit from kind of having innovation in that area. The reason that it is so diverse is to really attract a really interesting wide range of projects. So really you kind of get this little taster, this idea of a call, and you can kind of go to town with it. So whether that is, you have an incredible idea and you want to build a consortia, or you just, have something you think could participate within a consortia, we at Argentum will be able to facilitate and help you with both of those. So these are the calls that are for the April IHI wave. So another call, for instance, is about clinical validation for biomarkers within diagnosis and monitoring and progression of treatment and response. So there is sometimes, a common thread between the different calls, but as we can see, it's far less prescriptive, and it's really just looking for any innovation that within this field that could help the progression of treatment.
Yes, these are some examples of top-down calls, health-specific calls. And here I have some more examples that we'll just shortly address. The LNet Neuron, the aim of this call is to facilitate collaborative research projects that will address clinical questions to improve the knowledge on the cause of progression of neurological diseases. It's also a yearly call, upcoming deadline for March. On the right side, the EIT Health. This is a competition, not a grant, and this brings innovative real-world health solutions to market. And besides an attractive cash prize, this program provides biotech, medtech, and digital health startups with visibility and insert you into the EIT Health ecosystem. On the left side, I mentioned TransCan. This is a funding direction focuses on understanding and preventing cancer, obviously a worldwide health concern despite the continuous advancement of research and treatment approaches. This is also a yearly call. And lastly, the Odin Smart Hospitals. This is a recurrent call as well, focusing on developing and deploying innovative AI, robotics, IoT solutions for healthcare providers to scale up their digital transformation markets. This is an example of a digital health call wherein both Cluster 1 Health and Cluster 4 digital solutions come together.
Okay, well, thank you very much everyone for listening and for joining us on this webinar. And we hope you found it interesting and very informative. So as you can see with all of these calls that we've discussed, this is really just a kind of drop in the ocean that is dilutive funding and options for health tech, biotech, medtech companies. If you do have any further questions, please be in contact with us. We'd love to hear from you and discuss working together. I have to say that in terms of, as you can see, there's such a diverse range of different opportunities that some of these will be, exceptionally relevant for you, some less so. But that is something we'd be able to help you with and really, identify the correct grants that are relevant and suitable for your funding goals and where you are at to as a company. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Later on, Lynette from our marketing team will send you a follow-up email. And you're welcome to book a call via the link that will be in the email. And we look forward to hearing from you. And thank you for your time today.
Bye.